All right, welcome in, everybody. This is Professor Rigel Flamsteed, VT, and you are in Game Theory 101. I guess this is the night class at Virtual University. So come on in, have a seat, and we're going to get started in just a minute here. I'm going to be playing a different game today. We're going to take a little break from Tomb Raider and the Adventures of Lara Croft from 1996. We're going to be playing instead a game called 80 Days. 80 Days is a game that is pretty near and dear to my heart. I've played it before, full disclosure. It's a game from a small studio, but a mighty studio, I would say, called Inkle. This game came out in 2014, so it is a little older. We're doing some. I can't call a game from 2014 vintage, but we're still sticking with some older games for now. 80 Days is a game that is based on Jules Verne's novel Around the World in 80 Days. So we're going to be following in the footsteps of Monsieur Phileas Fogg, who is the protagonist of that novel. We're going to be playing his manservant Passepartout. And basically trying to keep Phileas Fogg alive as we try to circumnavigate the globe in 80 days. There's a twist to this, which is that the game is it's a narrative game, I should say. It has some steampunk and I don't know what else to call it, clockpunk elements. And I think that's really cool. It's really fun. It puts a neat spin on a novel that was definitely meant to be very hard, like not science fiction, but very much couched in reality. And this is still going to be, I think, pretty close to that. We're going to have to deal with the restrictions of steampunk travel in the year of 1872, an alternate world of 1872. So expect the unexpected, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And the game kind of just goes, like you start and you're running. So I also thought this would be a little bit more of a chill stream because I don't have to like worry about getting eaten or bitten by wolves or crocodiles or dinosaurs, unlike Tomb Raider. So let's just see how this goes, and we'll have a good time. All right, so London, 1872, and I'll do my best to like read and narrate where there is. I can't remember how much voice acting there is already, like baked into the game. But where there are gaps or silence in the voices, the voice acting, I will do my best to provide. To provide my own performance. So bear with me, and hopefully this will be a fun time. All right, London, 1872. I have entered into the service of a new gentleman. Whereas is this guy? He's technically French, but I feel like this game is very British. I have entered into the service of a new gentleman. It would seem he is a gambling man. Inkle presents, in association with Cape Guy. Sounds a little loud. Directed by John Ingold and Joseph Humphrey. Script by Meg Janth. Hope I'm saying that correctly. PC and Mac edition by Ben Nicholson. Joam illustration, Tom Kale, Lawrence Chapman. Sorry, I missed the last name. 80 Days. It's a touch loud. I will adjust that. But yeah, based on the novel by Jules Verne, which is really cool. Jules Verne is a great author. I am a big fan of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Maybe someday Inkle will make a game about that. I think that would be pretty cool. All right, let's take the volume down a notch because it is pretty loud. That's better. And of course, as with the novel, we start in London. Begin. My master has returned from the Reform Club with a strange gleam in his eye. "Passepartout," said he, "we are going around the world. Pack my evening jacket. There is not a moment to waste. You, Passepartout, now have funds." All right, we have 4,000 pounds. It's 7:04 p.m. on a Tuesday. "Quickly, Passepartout, collect our things and we'll be off." All right, we got to pack. So, in Fogg's apartment, there was just a moment to seize anything further that I thought might be useful for our long trip. I think this is randomly generated every time. We definitely want the evening jacket. The Russian timetable is useful. Can we fit it? We can fit it. Oh, that's good. Okay. Oh, we can bring... I think we can bring everything. Pack the tobacco. And a book of English poetry. A slim volume of poems by the celebrated English poet Percy Shelley. Oh, that's wonderful. Our completed Englishman's wardrobe should help us negotiate times of upper-class journeys. Good to know. And because we took the Russian timetable, we get maps all across Russia. Very tempting to take that path because it's going to take us all the way to the Pacific. Ooh. Oh, wow. Oh, we're getting all kinds of information here. This is how we know which ways we can go. So Krasnovodsk runs to, well, we'll find out. All right, let's depart. Okay, we have to make a decision. Are we gonna go to Cambridge or Paris? I think I may do 2 runs of this tonight. We'll see how much time it takes. I think the first time we'll do like a fairly vanilla run, and then we'll see. Maybe we'll do another run where we go a different way rather than like west to east. Around the globe. That way, we might instead go. Maybe we'll go east to west, or maybe north to south, or south to north. So we'll see what happens. But I think for this run, we're gonna take a fairly orthodox route. So Paris it is. So going to Paris will cost us, let's see, 1 suitcase and 0 hearts. Departing now, the Amphitrite Express to Paris. The guard's van has space for 1 suitcase, which will suffice. With travel, this looks like a bearable option. Alright, we will take the Amphitrite Express, which appears to be a clockwork horse and carriage. That's awesome. We leapt aboard the 825 from Charing Cross as the final whistle shrieked its warning. Our journey had begun. Choo-choo. I'm on fine form, but we must make haste. Alright, and we can converse. Greetings, Monsieur Verne. Oh, it's Jules Verne himself. Passepartout, did you say your name was? What a curious appellation. I love the smell of the Seine in the morning. Oh boy, we can ask... Okay, so we can ask him about different routes. We can ask him, for instance, about like the trip from Paris to Zurich, to Cambridge, Nice, Dubrovnik, or Bloemfontein, which would be... Wow, that would be like... Isn't that like South Africa? Let's ask about Zurich. That'll take us to Switzerland. That seems... Okay. Can you travel from Paris to Zurich? Maybe I should do a French accent for Passepartout. Can you travel from Paris to Zurich? That seems quite impossible to me. Now tell me, what is this journey of yours? Okay, so that's a good question. So the entire basis for Phileas Fogg's journey is a bet, a wager, that he made with the Reform Club in London. He's a rich guy who's a member of a social club, and he made a bet that he could get around the world in 80 days using the technology of 1872, and those guys were like, bet, and so the wager was on. So that is the answer. A wager, monsieur. Nothing more. A wager! What a marvelously simple way to motivate an adventure. Yes. You would know, Monsieur Verne.
I need to know about Paris. Your city is recovering from the siege, I think.
Okay, so I'm from Paris. So maybe we can ask him about... Is that even possible?
Is it possible to go from Paris to Bloemfontein? You'd have to ask my secretary, but some buyers will pay well for tobacco from Bloemfontein.
Okay, so that's good to know. So, because we can buy and sell things, so we can sell the tobacco in Bloemfontein for some hard cash, I think, because we are going to need it for sure. All right, surely there's a way from Paris to Nice.
Indeed, I met a man who used to talk about the Pyrenees Express from Paris to Nice.
Ooh, we can use English poetry on him?
Are you a fan of poetry, Monsieur Verne? Sounds wonderful.
I guess we can ask him about Nice.
The Riviera is only just becoming fashionable because of the train.
Nice. Oh, and we can ask about Nice to other locations. Let's try Nice to Rome.
All I know is this. They say the Venetian artificers control all of Italy behind the scenes.
Also, there's artificers in Italy. Interesting. What about... Okay, so Nice to Venice.
Indeed, one can travel in a private car from Nice to Venice, but the journey is a tiring one.
Okay, so that's going to mean it's going to be more taxing on Phileas Fogg. As you can see, Phileas actually has a little health bar down here, and depending on how difficult the travel is, it will impact his health. Sometimes positively, sometimes more often than not negatively, unfortunately. All right. The Amphitrite Express rattled along narrow gauge rails to Dover, where its fins extended and it plunged directly into the channel. Oh, so it's amphibious. That's interesting. So we took a clockwork horse carriage to a train, which is amphibious. Wow. Monsieur Fogg made no remarks as the dark water pressed against our windows. I thought it so marvelous at the time. But how many marvels were still to come? Then from outside our cabin door I heard a cry. Okay, and we can choose. Are we going to investigate or remain firmly in our seats? I am going to investigate because, I'm not going to let anybody be left to trouble. Should I read this whole thing in the French accent? I'm only going to do it when he's speaking. Monsieur Fogg nodded just a fraction, evidently approving, though not feeling the need to undertake any similar action himself. In the corridor outside our compartment, I found a young man with a dapper haircut and brightly colored waistcoat, pacing about in a state of some alarm. Can I assist you, monsieur? Or we can watch him, or duck back into the compartment. I will watch him for a moment, trying to comprehend the nature of his distress. It seemed he was looking for something, but not with any great attention, like a man who does not expect to find what he is looking for. I will approach him to offer my aid, and his gaze snapped up.
You're not a thief, are you?
The man retorted sharply.
Certainly not, monsieur.
I am a valet. What is it you need thieving, monsieur?
Certainly not, monsieur. No? Well, I can't say I'm surprised. I would have noticed if you had taken it, I'm sure.
The man turned away and began looking around once more, quite hopelessly.
You have been robbed?
You have lost something? I'm not gonna judge. I'm not gonna presuppose that he's been robbed. You have lost something?
My silver-plated cigarette case, the man moaned. It's worth a reasonable amount of money, certainly, but what I can't understand is how it disappeared. I was in my compartment, I took out a cigarette and put the case on the table, and the next moment it was gone.
Have you looked on the floor?
Do you take me for an imbecile? Of course I have.
And you were quite alone?
Yes, well, except for the lady. But she can hardly have just walked off with it, can she?
And what lady was that, monsieur? I asked, beginning to think that this man was indeed an imbecile after all.
Damn it all, I don't know, he exclaimed. The young lady sharing the compartment. She went off a few minutes ago.
I coughed gently.
Then I suggest you have your culprit.
The man appeared visibly shaken.
That's quite an accusation, he retorted. Although, by God, I suppose you're right, but I can hardly accuse her, can I?
Do you know where she went? I asked.
You could at least suggest the matter. I can't go chasing after ladies on trains, the man replied, almost sullenly. If my fiancée came to hear of it, then that would be that. No, I think I'm quite done in. Your cigarette case is so important? He nodded sadly. It was a gift, upon the occasion of, well, you understand. Bother, but I really am in hot water. Very well, I will look.
What else can I do? I'm a good guy. I'm passepartout. I'm affable and helpful if I can be. I'm a valet. The young man brightened a little.
Would you? That would be awfully decent of you, though I'm not sure how you'd know her when you saw her, of course. He chewed his whiskers for a moment. Perhaps you'll be able to smell the guilt on her. They say that happens.
I doubt it, monsieur, but I will try. All right.
Very good. She'll have guilty eyes, no doubt. Check the eyes.
And I will hunt the corridors. Look into a few nearby compartments. I don't want to bother anybody. I'm going to hunt the corridors. But while I found several passengers and some ladies amongst them, none had the aspect or manner which suggested a thief. But let it not be said that I am not dedicated. And when I say I will do something, then I do it. That said, however, I do not always succeed in my endeavors. Despite hunting amongst high class and low, I found nothing. The lady in question had blended away quite seamlessly, and I could not rout her. I returned with bad news to the young man, who was glum, but not surprised.
A master of disguise, no doubt, he complained. Clearly a higher class of thief.
I left the man to his sighing and moaning and returned to my compartment. Monsieur Fogg looked up briefly as though to ascertain that the status quo of master and man had been restored before disappearing into the folds of his paper once more. Okay. Interesting. Sometimes things come up and then they go away and then they come back again, narratively. So we'll see if this weaves in and out of our journey. We splashed up onto the rails at Calais and closed the remaining miles to Paris Gare du Nord quickly. As we crossed the bustling concourse towards the exit, I noticed the young man from the train once more. He seemed no calmer than before, and most eager to speak when I caught his eye.
"Did you find your cigarette case, monsieur?"
I asked. The man shook his head, but then as I nodded and began to turn away, he caught my arm, and voice dropping to a whisper.
"But wait a moment. I must tell someone. I did find something most odd."
"A clue, monsieur?"
"I suppose you could call it that, yes."
So saying, he reached inside his jacket and pulled out a most curious item, no less than a long-stemmed jet-black rose.
"What do you make of it?"
he whispered. It was a fine specimen. It was freshly cut, the petals a rich black with an inky luster, a most curious artifact. Suddenly, an aging porter guiding a luggage automaton rounded on us.
"So it's true," he blurted. "She is here."
I whirled on him. "Who?"
"You know what this flower is, monsieur?" "Talk of the papers," the man replied. "Look."
He took a copy from a nearby rack and shook it open. "London police baffled as Black Rose thief strikes again."
"But, who is this Black Rose?"
I demanded.
"It's exactly the mystery," replied the porter cheerfully. "No one knows. Some say she's a pauper, a swift one, and others say she's a bored aristocrat. Either way, she's the most successful jewel thief there is."
But why would a Jew thief steal a cigarette case? The old man shrugged. I looked to my dejected young friend for answers, but he was reading the newspaper with gathering excitement.
"Are you saying I've been robbed by a celebrated person? Well, that's wonderful news. Gertrude will be ecstatic."
Almost lovingly, he slipped the black rose back into his jacket before skipping away into the crowd. Strange young fellow. All right, we've arrived in Paris. There seems to be no departures today. We should explore. Okay, so day 2, there's nothing for us to do in terms of moving forward, but we can certainly spend some time in the market. Maybe we sell some English poetry? Okay, valuable in Dubrovnik and Munich, and especially valuable, as we found out, in Bloemfontein in South Africa. So we may want to go that way. Now, we did already use the Russian timetable, so we don't need that anymore. I think we can sell it, which nets us 31 pounds. Ooh, we can buy some wine, a Chateau d'Yquem wine, some seasickness pills. Ooh, European carriages list. That's pretty good, and that's for £1. Okay, good to know. We could sell English poetry. Let's see. So let's buy that. Which discovers some new routes. Okay, we can go to Amsterdam, Berlin, Copenhagen. We can go to Venice, Munich, Budapest, Belgrade. Okay, we're opening up some options. Istanbul, Izmir, and Antalya. Oh wow, we even opened up some routes in North Africa. Route to Spain. Okay, interesting. Alright. I could hold on to it. I could. I mean, am I going to go to Copenhagen? I don't think I'm going to Copenhagen. So I will hold on for now. I could also buy an extra suitcase. It's only £6. Can I do that? Alright. Let's plan. So we can either go... We could go to the Pyrenees, which goes to Nice, or we could go to Amsterdam. I don't know. We could probably adjust it. No charge tomorrow. And it arrives Friday. That's kind of long, but I do kind of want to try to go down through this way rather than north. Okay, so that's good to know. That's right, he did say the one can travel. Okay. Okay. Oops, how do we get out of this? Back? Okay. We'll pass the night here. We took a hotel for the night. We will be comfortable here, Monsieur Fogg remarked, but traveling overnight will often be more efficient. Where possible? So we must board the longest journeys available. Perhaps, he replied. Still, the surrounds of the Hotel Ritz were most enjoyable. What time does it depart? I think we have time to explore. Ooh, so we can take other routes. The Exposition Universelle sprawled over the grounds of the purpose-built Palais du Champs de Mars. Hot air balloons sailed gently across the sky, and the powdery light of the Yablokov candles gleamed invitingly. I was flooded with memories of the siege of Paris, and my own small part in it. That's interesting. Let's find out more. It was hard to believe that only a year ago I had been... Ooh, a blockade runner on the balloon post, a cook feeding starved citizens in the Latin Quarter, or a uniformed soldier of the National Guard. Balloon. It's got to be a balloon. I had been a blockade runner on the balloon post, which smuggled letters and communications over the Prussian forces by hot air balloon. Before my first run, an elderly artificer with a copper lily pin gleaming upon her collar, had explained how to operate the burner valves and vents, and how to read the wind currents by spitting into the air. I had been fearful, and so listened closely to her instructions. With my eyes wide and hands shaking. Alas, as an artificer, I cannot involve myself in matters of war, she said flatly, adjusting the lie
of her copy lily pin. But you, poor boy, only wish to take this package of love letters to your sweetheart at Poitiers. I understand you, Madame Artificier, I remarked slyly. Aye, she continued grimly, helping to load another parcel of photographically reduced military documents and strategic communiques into the balloon's gondola. Am taking pity on a poor love-struck boy caught in the midst of war. Back then, I had thought we would prevail. We would have to. That the other nations of the world would send aid, that our battalions in Loire would triumph and march to the city. I had thought our courage could stave off thirst and hunger and cholera as well as Prussian guns. But Paris had surrendered, and the next month the Prussians rode their horses through the city in victory, while we ate Bismarck's grain and meat as promised in the armistice. I looked at the gleaming, peaceful streets of Paris now and saw only war and siege. So there was a war pretty recently. I snatched the Prussian airships from the air. I scrubbed the smoke from the sky. Let's see. And left only the pink-tinged ochre of the sun setting. I snatched the Prussian airships from the air and muted the sounds of artillery. I doused the fires raging around the city and resurrected the horses, rats, and cats from their slaughter. I resurrected the Paris of my childhood, its gaily lit cafes and dark catacombs, its boulevards and gutters, its poets and radicals, its dark-eyed youths with whom I had danced and kissed on the banks of the Seine. I promised myself then that this is how I would remember Paris. It is how I remember my city, even now.
Your character is now dependable. Cool. Alright. Let's get out of here. So, we can actually go now on the Orient Express to Venice. It's a little expensive. But it's, I think, going to be better than going to Nice, actually. So I'm glad we stayed overnight. Alright, day 3, Thursday. When construction began on the great pan-European railway from Paris to Istanbul, no one believed that it could be completed, let alone completed so fast. But with the earthworkers cutting through the fields, and the steam layers rolling the track behind them, the whole route was now open in less than 6 months, and the Compagnie Internationale des Wagons Lits turned its attention south, creating the line through the Alps to Italy and beyond. The tunneling was so fast that Mont-Cenis Pass was left empty, despite its own completion only 3 years previously. Climbing up and over the mountains by means of chains and inclined carriages seemed backwards when one could simply strike through. We can talk to somebody. That's who we're going to talk to. Monsieur Dumas. Greetings, Monsieur Dumas. Can I help you at all, monsieur? I am the guard on this train. Sure, that Dumas is another famous French author, so I think they're just paying a little homage to him. He wrote, what did he write? He wrote The Three Musketeers, for one, as well as The Count of Monte Cristo. Alright, let's talk about... We already know some information about Venice. Maybe to Sofia. On the subject of trains, I've heard Moscow is linked to St. Petersburg by train, but the journey is a tiring one. Okay, we can ask about St. Petersburg. Some people say you can buy jeweled eggs in St. Petersburg that will sell a fortune in Herat. Herat? Apparently, the fastest way to Herat is from here. From here is via Istanbul. Now, anyway, so you are visitors of the Carnival, perhaps? No. I think not, monsieur. But your dress. My apologies. You are English. I don't think Passepartout is English, but you know he dresses the part. How about Herat to Qatar? Yes, one can travel in a hired palanquin from Herat to Qatar. I have heard that Creta is a bleak little town. Okay. Let's see what we opened up here. St. Petersburg to Moscow, that makes sense. Whoa. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at that. Across Persia. Right, we're just gonna skip Zurich. I don't know how you get to Zurich. The train ran as swift as the racing clouds. I settled my master and then went to the bar. intending to meet a few fellow passengers and see what I could discover. The hour was still early, and the candle-lit compartment was empty but for a severe-looking lady reading a newspaper. I greeted her cordially, and she lowered her paper to regard me with cool, level eyes. "Yes, monsieur? Is this your first time aboard the train?" She smiled. "Indeed not. I am a most frequent traveler. This place is almost my home." There was a touch of coldness in her tone. Perhaps this really was her home, and I was not welcome within it. I noted she did not have a drink, a fact which she could not deny and which I gallantly rectified before she proceeded to ignore me behind her newspaper. Oh well, I entertained myself well enough. Reading the headlines visible from where I sat. Reports of unrest in Italy, explosions in Rome linked to mysterious airships coming in and out of the new airport built into what Italian unification had left of the Colosseum. There were rumors of mechanical armies and be-weaponed automata. It seemed fantastical. What evil creature would mechanize warfare? The lady flicked down the corner of the paper. "You have an inquisitive nose," she remarked. You keep poking it in my direction. The paper had my attention," I explained. "You have business in Italy?" she asked. "We have considered traveling that way." She nodded. "There's great unrest in Italy," she replied. "It is easy enough to be blown up, quite by accident." You are Italian yourself?" She laughed. "Do I look Italian?" I had no answer for that. "I would guess Romanian?" "Then you would be wrong. Have a drink, monsieur, then return to your bed and leave me to my peace and quiet." I smiled pleasantly enough at this rebuttal. After an hour and a gentle cognac, I returned to my compartment to be rocked to sleep by the train. Night fell, and then a darker night still as we entered the Simplon tunnel beneath the Alps. I think I botched that conversation. I should have been more careful. We awoke the next morning on the other side of the Alps. I brought breakfast for Monsieur. He's fine. I went for a walk along the length of the train, only to find, to my great puzzlement, that it seemed somewhat shorter than it had been the night before. Indeed, I could no longer find the bar carriage anywhere between first and second class. I asked a guard about it, but he seemed quite genuinely surprised. "We have no bar aboard the Orient Express, monsieur," he declared with deep authoritarian seriousness. "We do not serve any alcohol aboard." How can you operate a luxury train without alcohol?" "Perfectly well," the guard responded. "So long as our journey follows its intended course, we find it unnecessary. We've been a dry train since being bought by the Society of Friends, apparently." He added in a whisper, "They made the money for the purchase by selling chocolate." I could not argue, though the matter was far from settled. I do not believe I am given to delusions. I resolved to find the woman who would corroborate my story. But despite haunting the corridors of the train for several hours, I saw no sign of her. Perhaps she had disappeared along with the bartender. A few hours later, we arrived in Venice Station, built on the mainland but connected to Venice proper by a long, flexible floating bridge. Yeah, that's true. I have actually been to Venice, and yeah, you arrive. There's like and I can't remember the name of it. There's like an area just at the shoreline where you can then proceed into the city itself. Venice is it's a beautiful city. We disembarked and flagged a rickshaw to carry us across the uneasy waters of the lagoon. As we left the station, I saw, for a fleeting moment, the woman from the bar. But then, she was gone. Ugh. Alright, what do we got? Oh boy. Well, we can sell that. It's slightly more valuable than it was before. I think we're going to hold on to this because I might actually go to Cairo. But a carnival mask? That is intriguing. I don't know if we're actually going to end up in Bucharest, though, if we're going through Venice. I think we'll leave that and we will explore. Oh, wow, look at that. I was waiting my turn at a gondola rank near the Rialto Bridge when a gondolier from across the canal. Gondolas are fun. I did have the great pleasure to take one when I was there. But you know, it is a rip-off a little bit. Not a rip. I shouldn't be so unkind. It's expensive, and it's definitely for tourists. But I still think it's worth it. When a gondolier from across the canal waved frantically to catch my attention. Let's see, Monsieur, how do I do an Italian accent? Monsieur, I will take you. What's the hurry? I shouted back. I waved her over. Having tired of waiting in line, she made a sharp turn through the water, earning the ire of several other boatmen who had to swerve to avoid her. Fiammetta! The booking agent who ran the rank shook his fist in her direction. Leave my customers alone! You deserve no customers, Ozzy! Fiammetta shouted back, raising her oar in defiance. Those creatures of yours are not gondoliers. They know nothing of the soul of Venice. I did not understand her meaning until I peered at one of the gondolas in the rank. Bleu! The oarsmen at the stern were machines! Of extraordinary beauty. Their bodies made of inlaid copper and azure Venetian glass, their faces covered by fine feathered carnival masks. Signor, my automaton gondoliers are the pride of Venice, Zorzi insisted breathlessly as he reached me. They are guaranteed safe by the Scuola, our local artificers guild. Fiammetta here is a troublemaker. From the water, Fiammetta called, I am a true gondolier! I nodded and stepped into Fiammetta's gondola. I like trouble, I told Zorzi with a shrug. Fiammetta gave him a perfectly executed mocking curtsy as we pulled away, no mean feat while also holding an oar and balancing on the prow of the low craft. Zorzi supported the Risorgimento, the Italian unification, Fiammetta told me as she pushed us forward. Now he is a bootlicker of the Scuola and dabbles in their infernal mechanicals. But the guild are merely inventors, I said. They take no side in war, civil or otherwise. Fiammetta gave me a pitying look. Perhaps where you are from, but for the Scuola are not the guild. They supported the Italians against the Pope from the beginning. Do continue. She took a deep breath. It is an open secret that Scuola run Italy, in all but name. The king is their puppet. We are a kingdom run by artificers. Is that so bad? I wondered aloud. Progress is progress, really? She spat into the water. The gondola slid onward. I listened as Fiammetta raged against her Scuola. The Scuola has money and power in their infernal devices. They are an impossible enemy. She gave me a sharp look before tugging a length of grey-red braid thoughtfully. But there are those who fight still. The Zouave of Rome will never surrender to the Scuola. I barely knew how to respond and lapsed into silence. We rode past palazzos and Gothic churches, each more grand than the last, Fiammetta giving me a potted history of Venice in her own idiosyncratic style. It seemed the foundations were being fitted with water pumps to push water downwards and thereby lift the city up. The Scuola will make Venice into a ship, Fiammetta told me. No doubt they will sail it around the world to wage war. I did not like the thought of a city of artificers who had broken from the guild's credo, roaming free about the world. Your character is now courageous. You're quite the flamboyant type, I see. Says Phileas. We can go to Budapest. Okay, wait. Mark it. Bucharest! Oh my gosh. Okay. We can get to Bucharest, I think. Oh, did we just lose it? Shoot. Gotta move fast. Alright. That's late. Oh, that's too late. Alright, what about Athens? 4 days? No way. Alright, what about Sophia? No charge, tomorrow. Alright, 10 a.m. Let's do that. Gotta be careful about staying in the hotels because they do cost money. And they take time. I was walking along a canal side in Venice when I found myself in the midst of a group of revelers. They wore a fabulous array of masks, some beak-nosed, others brightly feathered, and even some spun of fine, glittering wire. I bowed in greeting and gave them such a surprise that one tripped, turned, and then tumbled into the canal. Her friends seemed drunkenly unconcerned and fell about in pealing laughter as the woman cursed and thrashed in the dark water. Will you not help her? I demanded. She is your friend. One of the revelers wiped her eyes. Fiammetta enjoys an occasional dip in the canal, especially when she drinks. Another drunken youth agreed. It's the only time she bathes. Fiammetta had dragged herself over to a flight of steps and hauled herself up. It was indeed the same Fiammetta I had encountered on the canals earlier. It was clear she recognized me as well. My good friend, she exclaimed. Good evening, I returned. This, she declared, turning to her friends, is the French gentleman who occupied me all this afternoon. They burst into laughter. I colored. Come, drink with us, she gestured for me to come closer. I stepped over. Once I was close enough, she slapped me. That is for not rescuing me, she said triumphantly. You clearly did not need rescuing, she narrowed her eyes at me. Do not mind Fiammetta, her friends remarked softly. She is angry because of her work and because of what happened to her brother. What happened to her brother? Sophos happened to him, Fiammetta interjected, scowling. And now that blasted Greek has joined with the Scuola. So what did Sophos do to your brother? She turned her face slightly and dropped her voice. Do not want to talk about it, she spat into the canal. If you chance to take the airship from Rome to Athens, you might meet Senor Sophos. Put a knife in his heart before he takes yours. I will give him your love, I promised ambiguously. Fiammetta laughed darkly, and one of her friends took her arm. Leave such thoughts for another night, he advised, pulling her away. I returned to Monsieur Fogg, curious as to this Sophos, despite myself. Ooh, we can go through Rome. I think we should go to Rome. I think it's not as cheap. Let's see, -9 health, but +4. I don't think we should do it. I think we gotta go through Sophia. It's faster, and it's bearable. And it's still the Orient Express. We crossed the bridge over the lagoon once more and returned to the train station, happy to be leaving Italy behind, and happier still to be back aboard the Orient Express. Always talk, if you can. Oh, it's Monsieur Fogg. I'm at your service, Monsieur Fogg. Passepartout? Health. How are you feeling, monsieur? I'm in roaring health. We must make haste. Sophia. I know that you can get to Bucharest from Sofia by public carriage, but the journey is a tiring one. Did you discover anything in the paper about Bucharest? Well, one can travel aboard the freight train from Bucharest to Odessa. Very good. Okay, so we can go north through Ukraine, pass through Belgrade, and we are in Sofia. I passed the time talking to an elderly gentleman that I encountered hunting this way and that, who said he had lost a pocket watch of great sentimental value. He claimed to have left it in the bar. A detail which made me extremely excited, but there was nothing more to be learned. We found no further explanation for this mystery. The poor old man seemed quite distraught. So I gently foisted him on one of the guards so I could return to my more pressing duties of steaming and ironing. We passed through the empty, desolate city of Belgrade, abandoned after the recent fighting, and pulled into Sofia in evening, and disembarked. Alright, let's see what we can buy here. valuable in Odessa. Are we gonna go through Odessa? I kind of don't want to, because I actually want to go south. I don't know. I don't know if I really want to go up that way. I was hoping to go down through Egypt. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. But we have to stay the night anyway. Day 6, I went for a cup of coffee in the evening and ended up seated opposite a group of men talking in Russian. I leaned over to listen. "We will send word to Moscow. As for you," the speaker prodded his friend in the shoulder, and their voices dropped to an inaudible whisper. In return, I dropped a teaspoon and leant in closer as I went to pick it up. "Head to Odessa, and from there take the freight train. The guard is my brother. Give him the watchword Gorchakov, and he will help you." The second man nodded. Pleased with my eardropping, I paid my bill and returned to the hotel. Later that evening, I returned to my room in time to see someone leaving. I called to them, but without turning, they began to run. I gave chase, but although I am a healthy man of relatively few years and capable in a pinch of some exertion, this mysterious character was fleeter yet, and as I turned a corner, they had vanished into thin air. "Show yourself!" I demanded, but no one materialized. I returned to the room, but was relieved to find nothing from our belongings appeared to be missing. We had been lucky, this time, at least. New routes discovered. I don't really want to go to Moscow. Let's explore. Yeah, that's what I was hoping. Alright, Sofia was a small Ottoman-style town full of hammers and coffee shops. Its public squares were arranged around bright fountains, and the muezzins of mosques nestled alongside Eastern Orthodox churches. I spent the morning being steamed, pounded, kneaded, and pressed at one of the well-appointed bathhouses with Monsieur Fogg, who looked deeply troubled by the entire experience. Relaxation was not really Monsieur Fogg's forte, whereas it was my métier. I considered myself a connoisseur of the art of leisure. In fact, my repose was considered one of the finest in all of Paris. After our massages, we were ushered into the steam room along with 3 other fellows. I nodded at them, and they returned the favor with the courtesy of gentlemen pretending very hard to be wearing more than a small towel around their waists. Monsieur Fogg, looking prim as ever, began reading a newspaper. I dare not speculate where he procured it from. The coals in the brazier sputtered as the gentlemen continued their conversation in rapid tones, though I could have sworn they were speaking Russian rather than Bulgarian. How odd. I helped Monsieur Fogg dress himself after our bath. "That was certainly an experience," he allowed as I adjusted his cravat, "though not one I care to repeat. I fear I have much to learn of my master's tastes. Your relationship with Fogg has strengthened slightly." Alright, let's get out of here. I want to go south. Not even that expensive. Alright, it's a little rough, but I think we can make it. We're going to take a steam carriage. The Trevitek steam carriage. We board a 6-seater public carriage in the evening with a short trip into Greece. Who can we talk to? Ooh, who's this? "Greetings, Madame le Clairvoyant. I see great things for you, Passepartout." So she is actually clairvoyant. Let's talk about Thessaloniki. Thessaloniki is named after the half-sister of Alexander the Great. Oh, she is French. Thessalonica is named after the half-sister of Alexander the Great. We want to know about this. What a question. Still, some buyers will pay well for tobacco from Alexandria. Okay, what about Athens? Yes, I met a woman who has a friend who helped to build aboard the Greek coastal train from Thessaloniki to Athens. Use English poetry.
You are too kind.
Alright, let's talk about Alexandria.
Some buyers will pay well for tobacco from Alexandria.
Okay, maybe we can find out about Alexandria to Cairo? Yes, Cairo can be reached from Alexandria. And what about Cairo to Suez? I believe so. Private car. Another tiring journey. Oh, interesting. It goes both ways. Okay. Alright, I think we're going to go to Athens. Trip from Sofia to the coastal city of Thessaloniki was mercifully brief, and came with the unexpected bonus of one of Madame Sosotris, a palmist who was returning to her visit. Oh, that's... okay, so I was referring to her as a clairvoyant, but her name is not actually Miss Clairvoyant. Was returning to visit her husband for, she said, her biannual sojourn. I asked her to read my palm. I'm not going to ask her about her marriage. And she did so happily for the good price of a single pound, taking my hand and studying it for a good while as the carriage bumped and rattled along the road. Eventually, she tutted.
That does not sound good, I remarked.
She shrugged.
I see a mysterious figure. I see a long journey. I see stormy waters and much danger.
I narrowed my eye. I gulped. An uncanny prediction. Then she added,
Also, I see a grave misadventure with a fish.
What to make of this I did not know. Only time would tell. Okay. I wonder if that's going to come. That'd be really funny if it comes true. Okay. This is probably going to be useful. And I think the driving cap is also going to be helpful. Because we may take some roads. And that's like free, so why not? Why not take it? Okay. This might be of use to us. Okay, oh, look at that. So if we go that way. I don't know. I don't know if I want to go all the way. We depart. Oh, sick. Let's just go. Let's go. We have 9 minutes. Alright, we're gonna go along the Greek coast by train to Athens. The train wound up the coastline of Greece, passing stepped olive groves on one side and the sparkling Aegean Sea on the other. Monsieur Fogg did not look up, but I could not look down. Such beauty, such magnificence. He'll be okay. Greetings, Senor Juan. Du vous garde, Passepartout.
Pray, tell me about Athens. All anyone knows about Athens is its ancient history.
Okay, he's Spanish. Okay. Alright, good to know. Athens to Alexandria. Never mind that. Okay, yes, we know this. So the zoetrope will go well in Alexandria. But answer me this. Have you ever smelled a beehive in the spring? Yes.
Ah, the most wonderful fragrance in all of nature.
Interesting. I find your accent confusing. That's funny. What about Alexandria to... Yeah, that is unlikely. To Beirut? No, we didn't do that. Poetry! Beirut. The Sublime Port still rules Beirut for now. How about from Beirut to Baghdad? I think we're out of luck. What about Beirut to Jeddah? Dates and figs? Nice. Let's learn about Jeddah. Apparently, Aden can be reached from Jeddah by desert car. Okay, what the heck, Batavia? How about Cali? Yeah, I was gonna say, that's the empty quarter of Saudi Arabia. Ujiji? Now you listen to me. The quickest way to Ujiji is through Alexandria. Alright, we're learning things. Oh, okay. Oh, we didn't actually learn very much. The view spoiled by... The train rattled along its own pace, the view spoiled by the endless construction work. The Greeks were building a bridge across the Aegean, and had been doing so for many years now. As one collapsed, another with a new design was begun, and now the line of beginnings of bridges was in itself beginning to form a bridge. Perhaps we could cross it, but most likely this bridge of bridges would fail halfway through as well. Yeah, that sounds risky. Across the Aegean? No. Past the night. My master was not, as a rule, particularly interested in the fabulous locales and exotic cities we journeyed through. Athens was the exception that proved the rule. His sudden interest was not limited to the city. He fixed me with a look. "Do you speak Greek?" I did, though I will not go into the circumstances of how exactly I came to learn the tongue here. Mais oui, monsieur, I smiled sharply, repeating a few of the phrases I had, shall we say, picked up. Monsieur Fogg vermilion. "That, Passepartout," he cleared his throat, "is a very specialized vocabulary." Despite my master's grasp of ancient Greek, the demotic variant more commonly spoken on the streets eluded him. We were reduced to asking for directions through a combination of mime, moi, opposite quotations from Homer, my master, and half-remembered flattery, moi encore, me again. We picked our way through the labyrinthine streets of the Plaka and up to the Acropolis. I gazed at the Parthenon's columns. It was a magnificent sight, even in ruins. I could only imagine how it must have looked 2,000 years ago, the jewel in the crown of the Athenian Empire. We observed in silence. I felt no need to put any words to the Parthenon's wonder, and Monsieur Fogg quite clearly shared my feelings. As we stood admiring the architecture, I was rudely knocked into by a small man with thick glasses. My hand flew to my wallet to ensure it was still there, but it was. The man blushed red at my gesture. Too occupied by the sights, perhaps? I suggested cheerfully, and the man smiled. "I have seen it many times before, though yes, it is most impressive." He put out his hand to shake. "Dimitri Sophos." Sophos? I am the owner of a modest shipping freight company based here." I blinked in surprise. Was this the man the drunken Fiammetta had been so angry about? He seemed thoroughly harmless to me. And to where do you say it?" I inquired. Sophos smiled and pulled a pamphlet from his jacket that detailed the routes and timings. The one of most interest was a boat sailing to Cairo, which was leaving the next day. He beamed and wobbled away. "A man with sea legs," I observed. Monsieur Fogg, still gazing longingly at the Parthenon, did not reply. I doubt he noted a word of the entire exchange. Let's... Oh, interesting. Antalya connects to Beirut, which connects to Alexandria. Okay, this we knew. Let's go. We can't go to Alexandria? Oh. Alright, what if we sell Sophos' ship times and the driving cap for the 45 caliber rifle? And we can sell both in Alexandria. There's got to be a way directly, though, right? Alright, let's explore. I want to go to Alexandria. It's very expensive. Let's just go across the Aegean. Maybe that will take us from Izmir, we can go to Alexandria, because I don't want to miss Alexandria. We've invested so much in it. Alright, and we're only on day 7. We've made it pretty far. We boarded the daily ferry across the Aegean Sea, and then sat out on the deck enjoying the sunshine, getting much needed rest. What is your wish? What is your wish, master? Passepartout. There you are. Let's ask about Izmir. Might be interested that Izmir is connected to Istanbul by road, but it's slow going. Okay. Hunting rifles from Beirut are valuable, but not to Beirut. I really want to go to Alexandria. I can't believe Athens doesn't connect directly. Other passengers milled around, talking loudly and drinking ouzo, chilled by chips of ice carved from blocks in the hold of the ship. I could be totally wrong, but I think ouzo is like a light alcoholic beverage from Greece. The boat had the air of a market cafe. Clearly, sunshine was good for the soul. Otherwise, I spent my time talking to other passengers, trying to gather information for our next journey, discovering from a cheerful Baghdadi ragamuffin that a lost city stands in the desert between Beirut and Baghdad. Well, that's pretty cool. There was one more curious incident that day. I visited our cabin at one point to find it unlocked. Remembering the intruder I had seen once previously and chased away, I checked the corridors, but saw no one. Then I returned to the cases to check we had not been robbed, and found to my surprise that we were in fact one possession richer. Someone had dropped, or slipped, a silver-plated cigarette case into our bag. I turned it over with interest, finding an inscription on one side, GH, but it was not clear what it might mean. Okay, we're getting close. Oh, nice. We picked up a cigarette case that will fetch a good price in Colombo. I don't know. Oh, it's valuable here. Alright. You know what? I don't know if we're going to make it to Alexandria. I'm going to just sell all that. We'll hold on to that. We're definitely going to want the Tagelmust for the desert. And we should probably take the hand mirror. And why not? Pretty cheap. How did we end up with 3 cases? That's not good. Okay. Let's plan. Ooh. Whoa. Well, let's take the hotel. We'll pass the night here. Okay. The port of Smyrna, or Izmir, as the locals called it, was the gateway to the Ottoman trade with Europe. The British and French had their own consulates and private quays. Keys. But there was also Dutch and Venetian flags amongst the fleets of trade ships and dirigibles. I roamed the dock inquiring into onward passage, but with little success, until I began a desperate story of how my master and I were on the run from my master's cruel step-uncle. This is not gonna go well. Who was demanding that Monsieur Fogg marry his cousin in a match that could not be countenanced. They fell for a hook, line, and sinker, I am quite sure. I'll take you, he said. I sail to Antalya tomorrow. Perfect. Well, let's do that. Oops. And we're off. Back on we're on a fishing trawler. We boarded a small boat that smelled of various kinds of fish, and which we put out from port at first night. Let's see how this goes. Greetings, Captain Dukov. Enjoying your voyage. Let's talk about Anatolia. I'm sure you know about Antalya. My brother designed parts for the merchant trader Nefertiti from Antalya to Beirut. Let's talk about Beirut. I'm told the Sublime Porte still rules Beirut for now. The Druze and the Maronites are in conflict there. I think we already know about these. What about, Cairo? Hydrofoil from Astrakhan to Baku. The fare is expensive. Let's talk about Baku. Look at this. You can obtain high-grade iron ore in Baku that you can sell for profit in Karachi. That's funny. Well, you just never know. You never know how it's gonna go. Okay. I'm gonna guess that we can... I could have been a fisherman. Slow glint of the waves that could lull one to sleep if the fish themselves weren't so damn slippery. The silence of the open water. No one to issue orders, expect warm baths or cups of tea at exactly the correct temperature and with the requisite half finger of milk. Phileas Fogg in the novel dismissed his previous manservant because he did not, in fact, provide the tea at the correct temperature. The pleasant the splosh as the fish are tossed back alive on hearing which the fishermen with whom recently were most furious with. Oops. No! My master looked up from his books and merely averted his nostrils, declaring, "Passepartout, you smell of fish. Perhaps I am too soft to be any kind of hunter. I am well heeled, at least. So I guess I'm fancy." Oh, let's tend to Fogg. He's not doing so good. We rounded the coast of Turkey, clinging to the shore. We saw several other boats plying the waters. Some fishing vessels, some ferries. Just one of the fishermen about them. And he shrugged. "Busy little place, this is. Busy little place, this is. Water's the quickest way to anywhere. Except the airships," another put in. "But they're all private from Antalya. You can't get aboard unless you know the right people." A few hours later, we were on dry land once more. "A bath," Monsieur Fogg murmured. "I must have a bath." Yeah, we can have a bath in Antalya, I think. Sell the hand mirror. Yes. Yeah, we can sell tobacco. Oh, we also don't need this. Ooh. I like the spices. Let's take that. Riyadh, right? Yeah. Alright, let's plan. I don't like it. I'm hoping we can get some more options. We're gonna pass the night here. I spent my afternoon rambling around Kalechi, the historical center of Antalya, which was when I happened upon a group of Turkish dockhands unloading crates of Venetian goods into a warehouse flying the French flag. They had a passable grasp of French, no doubt a prerequisite of working for their French employer, one Monsieur Fontaine. "Though we've never met him," one of them added bitterly. Is he a good employer? I asked politely, simply to make small talk. Alas, my innocent inquiry was not taken as such. "Why do you ask?" The dockhand fired back, crossing his arms. "Perhaps you are Monsieur Fontaine." "My name is Passepartout," I protested. "That's not even a real name." Such an empathetic filly while he was, prone to making friends and acts of random generosity. Alas, my invented backstory saw me doling out banknotes to these dockhands quite haphazardly. And thus, I was ensconced in my role. I spent a cheerful if deceptive afternoon getting to know my employees and inspecting the merchandise. They cracked open a crate to reveal a treasure trove of Venetian glass, glittering blue-green in the Anatolian sun. I pocketed a particularly fine piece. I'm suave. I lost some money. But I did, is there a way to, check my inventory? Ooh. Should we just go to Beirut? I think we should. Let's just go. merchant trader Nefertiti. Oh, the Nefertiti. Okay. A tall-masted Egyptian clipper that sailed around the coastline from Antalya all the way to Alexandria. Asked the skipper if he had considered longer voyages via the Suez Canal, but he only laughed. The fees, young man, are quite extortionate. How extortionate, I asked. You will not buy me or my boat, he replied, if that is your intention. My liberty is worth more coin than you have. I nodded, and we did not discuss it further. Let's tend to Mr. Fogg. I could not wish for a more superior valet. We gotta keep him happy, and alive. The evening drew on, and the crew served gin slings with great cheer, the captain nodding to me as the liquor was poured. Enjoy, he called, for as long as you are with us. I saluted him with my glass and savored the cool drink as the sun went down in fire and smoke across the sea. And we are in Beirut on day 10. Alright, we made it. I'd like to see if we can make it. Ooh, the valeting? Yeah, absolutely. Don't need that. A shaving kit is good. I do not particularly want to go there, so let's see if we can find some other passage. We found no true hotel, only a boarding house of rooms around a central courtyard in which a fountain danced, and various people sat and talked in hushed tones. As I looked about, I found something suspect in every pair of eyes I met. So naturally, I was curious. I introduced myself to a likely-looking pair. They had just arrived from Baghdad and were full of the glories of that city. Tell me more, I demanded, and so the woman, one Madame Izir, enthused about the generous hospitality and warm welcome expected from all Baghdadis. I shall look forward to it, I declared cheerfully. Madame Izir and her male companion took their leave from the fountainside, insisting on recommending a spot in town where we might find a driver to Baghdad before going. I was left sitting beside the fountain, listening to the whispering water until I retired. Nice! That is awesome. Let's go. By desert car. Look at this thing. That's crazy looking. We found a driver willing to cross the desert in a car powered by an eclectic collection of sails, mirrors, glass tubes, and steam power. I did not fully understand it, but once the engine was started and the liquid in the tubes began to bubble and steam in the heat, the vehicle took off, hovering at such a speed that we were forced to leap aboard. I will converse. Greetings, Monsieur Driver. Hold on. Let's talk about Baghdad. They say that Baghdad was once magnificent, now less so. How about from Baghdad to Tehran? Probably. Bandar Abbas? Don't know. English. Don't mind if I do. Okay, cool. Let's learn some more about Tehran. Maybe Tehran to Kedah? I think that is true. And what about to Herat? Okay. We learned some things. That is not really useful to us anymore, because we are taking a car. I do want to get to Riyadh if it's possible. Within a few hours, we were in deep desert, the bobbing car dropping and rising above the loose and uneven yellow stone. In all directions, there was nothing to be seen but the misty heat haze rising from the sand. Oh, where will we stop for the night? Or I kept my eyes peeled on the horizon, hoping for a glimpse of, well, anything, but there was nothing to be seen. After several hours, the heat and the smell of the constant bubbling of the car began to grate on my nerves, so I was overjoyed to see the outline of buildings rising up through the haze. Oh boy. Now we can talk to Monsieur Fogg. Shaving kit. May I shave you, monsieur? May I shave you, monsieur? Shave away and make it close. His well-being improved greatly. Perhaps some poetry will ease you? Reminder of my school days. Thank you, Passepartout. That will make me very comfortable. Alright, excellent. We kept him in good spirits. 83 is pretty good. We spent the night feasting on spices and pulses and drinking a bar A dark beer-like drink in the ruined walls of an ancient city. I have no idea of its name or history. None of the inhabitants spoke English, and our driver disappeared within a few moments of our arrival. I took a moment to explore the buildings, poking through empty rooms and down long, dusty hallways whose roofs came and went like English clouds. I found nothing but a touch of loneliness, until on my return I lost my way and was faced with a choice of passages. Ooh, let's go left. You never know. The ancient corridor stretched away from me, and I passed engraved walls. In a dark and forgotten corner, I found a human skull, which I took with me. Why not? I asked about the ruins. Very old indeed, he said. Once a river ran through that city, and for 4,000 years a great empire flourished. What happened to it? What happened to it? He shrugged. The river moved. Some changes cannot be prevented. The domes and towers of Baghdad rose into view, and the sound of chanting drifted across the open plains towards us. Good gracious, this is rather more exhausting than I anticipated. Ooh. Fog took a hit, and it's pretty late at night, so we will stay over into Sunday, day 13. Almost 2 weeks. We stayed in Baghdad at the Tio Hotel, owned by one Marcus Tio, a man of most improbably pale skin in these desert climes. You have fallen out to these parts? I asked. No, indeed, he replied, wiping wine glasses with a small towel as we talked after hours in the hotel bar. I have little interest in travel myself. My fascinations are elsewhere. I enjoy experiments. Whatever do you mean? Whatever do you mean? I asked, intrigued. I have a great fascination with things, he replied, gesturing with a hand around the bar at the cluttered shelves, the ornaments, the fine antiquities that covered every surface. And I recently acquired a most wonderful thing. And what thing is that? A balloon, he declared with great joy. My son is taking it to Tehran in the next few days. Are you a fellow balloonist, dear sir? Perhaps you would enjoy the ride. Not as yet, I replied. I will mention it to my master. Tio nodded. Excellent. And here's something else. Another thing. I looked on in interest. From a shelf on the wall, he took down a beautifully crafted dagger. This is as old as the city and very valuable. I am sure. Please, from me. You are most generous. Oh, I'm not, he smiled. I've been told I trust unreservedly that this thing brings... I've been told by people I trust unreservedly that this thing brings bad luck, and I will be happy to be rid of it. Why not throw it into the river then? I asked. The only way to lift the curse is to cede ownership to someone who is aware of it. Should I lose it by either design or happenstance, I would be cursed forever. So, Passepartout, will you take it from me? I don't think I'm superstitious. And I slid the dagger into my belt. It was a very fine item indeed, a beautiful weight with a cool, bejeweled scabbard. A most honest man, Monsieur Tio, I thought, as I bid him good night, if perhaps not the cleverest macaron in the patisserie. Nice, and we can go straight on to Tehran, but I do want to go to Riyadh. We're going to miss it if we go that way. Oh, we can depart now? Alright, we better go. We better go. By Rosier Balloon. We met Tio's son on the outskirts of the city beside an enormous balloon. This is Lawrence, Marcus said. He will take you to Tehran. Lawrence put out his hand to shake. You fellows are the navigators? No, I replied. Just passengers. Oh, Lawrence looked at his father with evident surprise, but Marcus waved his objections away. You don't need a navigator, Lawrence, he assured him. Just follow the mountains until you see Tehran. Good luck. Oh, this is still Tio. I'm sorry. Before his son could reply, Marcus slipped the rope from its ring And with the burner already fired, we disappeared upwards. I will talk to Lawrence. And we will talk about Tehran. Persian, I've been assured that Persia's Bayandor-class airships are the fastest in the sky. The Persian alliance with the Ottoman Empire is proving fruitful. Let's talk about that. Oh, let's talk about Kabul. Beijing can be reached from Irkutsk by freight train. Let's do some poetry. Let's learn more about Tehran. The Qajar Shahs have ruled Persia for hundreds of years. Or for 100 years. Okay. About Tehran. Beijing to Hong Kong. Hong Kong to Beijing. I guess I'll just ask about Beijing. You can go to Beijing through Lahore. But tell me, do you suppose my father trusts me? Indeed, he must. He gave you this balloon. You are kind, monsieur, but I am not sure this isn't a punishment in disguise. Let's talk about Lahore. I hear that Lahore is only the third city in the world to boast a zoo. I don't think that that's true. Karachi? It's the secretary. Delhi? Okay, cool. Let's see what this opened up some things. Okay. Irkutsk to Urga and to Beijing. Hong Kong to Beijing and vice versa. Oh, I thought... Okay. I guess we don't know how. We do know it's possible. Lawrence's need for a navigator became quickly evident. The balloon drifted on, and though we could control its direction of flight through an ingenious set of rudders, the land below was featureless desert, marked by only the slightest notes and flourishes of raised land. I did not mention the difficulties to Monsieur Fogg, not wanting to displease him. We must keep our eyes peeled for any landmarks, I insisted to Lawrence. We will find a way. The long day dragged on into cold, starry night, and all I could imagine was the sound of the burner guttering and the balloon drifting to Earth, which will hopefully not happen. Although it is entirely possible. Let's get Mr. Fogg some attention. So you know my father you know my father well? Lawrence asked with an edge to his voice. No, but he seems a decent fellow. He's a cruel miser who uses people to his own ends and hides behind a smile. To be sure, if he put you on this balloon, he had a reason for it. But what possible motive could he have? Honestly, I have no idea. It's wheels within wheels with that man, Lawrence sighed. I wish I could have had a simple father, one who was easy to outstrip. The balloon buffeted a little, and Lawrence skillfully opened the burner to lift us higher over the mountains. Did he try to shift that dagger onto you? I took the dagger from my belt, and Lawrence all but shrieked. You brought it on board a hot air balloon? Are you insane? Why, surely you do not believe in curses? Not curses. Engineering. Did you not notice the marks in the walls of the hotel? This dagger moves by itself. I tore the dagger from my belt immediately and held it over the edge of the basket. Then I froze. Okay, your father told me the curse would linger unless the blade was given away, I said. Lawrence shook his head. It's not like that exactly. Drop it. Go on. I let it go. Ooh. The blade tumbled away downwards toward the barren, sand-covered slopes and was quickly lost from view. Lawrence waited and seemed to be counting. A moment later, there was a buzzing noise from somewhere nearby. I prepared to dodge, and just in time as the blade whistled by my ear to bury itself in the rim of the basket. You can't get rid of it, Lawrence said, because now it knows who its owner is. Oh no. Engineering? Okay, I don't That's going to come back in a hopefully entertaining and not too terrible way later. Despite heavy winds and whatever powers this curious blade of Teos possessed, we made it down to the ground level on the outskirts of Tehran. Lawrence shook us both by the hand and wished us well. "Will you return to Baghdad?" I asked. He thought for a moment and shook his head. "Perhaps not." "Perhaps not," he answered. "I think my father may have been trying to kill me."
"Surely not."
Lawrence chewed his lip. "I think there must have been something in my mother's will," he murmured. "I think it will be safer if I stay here." I wished him luck, and then we departed into the city. On day 15, we have reached Tehran. Let's explore. Okay, so that opens up some new routes. We can go to Bandar Abbas. To say that the capital of the Persian Empire is modern would be to deny the unparalleled glory of its ancient monuments and palaces. Yet, jewel-beaked, copper-bodied birds sang from the branches of trees, while spare workaday iron automata harvested cotton from the fields outside the city. The Qajar Shahs ruled over an empire almost constantly at war. But the recent alliance with the Ottoman Sublime Porte had allowed the city to prosper despite border disputes with Russia and British India. The city is a garden of culture and art protected from the skirmishes along its borders. I sat in the cafes with poets as they dueled each other with words and competed for patronage. Alright, what can we sell here? Holy goodness. Oh, that's worth a lot. Okay, definitely gonna sell that. Karachi, good to know. Worth 46 in Merv. Why did I bring that with me? Cursed dagger. Ooh. Very valuable. Okay. We're gonna hold on to it. It's priceless. It says as much. I think we can sell the daggers. Okay, Bandar Abbas. Ooh, woof. That is valuable. Okay. Let's sell the human skull. Use the eastern spices over here and put the hand moving carpet in there. Yeah, that was a good trade. It's in Bandar Abbas that it's valuable, right? No, it's in Kabul. Okay. But look how much that's worth. In Bandar, can we do both? All right, let's stay the night. We've made it pretty far. We're on day 15 already. Okay. I wandered the streets once more. The poets and musicians retreated as night fell. I sought out engineers and found them in the cafes drinking heavily sweetened coffee and racing their inventions across tabletops. I spoke to the metal forgers. An older woman whose muscular arms bulged under her chador leaned close. The other artificers call us mere blacksmiths," she said, waving her burn-spotted hands. "But could they make their wondrous devices if we didn't first hammer out their copper sheets and spin their wires?" "It is fine work," I remarked. It is fine work," I remarked. "The finest," a middle-aged fellow by the name of Rafik remarked. "In other cultures, a copper lily may be enough for an artificer to complete their education. But we all apprentice to other guilds and craftsmen. To truly make automata, we must be jewelers, architects, shipwrights, cobblers, doctors, dancers." But then you must learn endlessly. Rafik smiled. "Is that not what human culture is? Is that not what Tehran is? Endless learning, poured into buildings and gardens and inventions." I swallowed.
Are you sure you are not a poet? And I'm a dancer too,
Rafik winked, and we clinked our coffee glasses together. Someone further in called out, "To the Shahansha! To the Shahansha!" And we all raised our cups, and some wag added,
"May he live forever, under the watchful eye of the Prime Minister!"
And everyone laughed. That is my abiding memory of Tehran. A place where people could be both right and humane, all at the same time. A rare thing in this world of ours. It is a city, I am sure, that will stand forever. All right. Yeah, how are things with Mr. Fogg? Mr. Fogg, can we check that? Okay, let's get out of here. I have to try. That's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt. But I think we have to... Oh my god, look at this thing. The little beetle. It's a freaking rocket. The little beetle was a strange... Oh, it's an airship. Okay. Squat Bayandor-class airship that made regular high-speed runs back and forth between Bandar Abbas and Tehran. I noticed a well-dressed man aboard and ensured my seat was next to his. Always worth traveling in style. I would love to attend to that conversation, but Monsieur Fogg sat implacably as usual while I made conversation with the man next to me. A grizzled sort wearing a beautiful jacket strapped across a wide belly with a fine cummerbund. You are very smartly dressed, sir," I remarked.
"And what sort of ambassador is not?"
he demanded in return. He stuck out a thick hand.
"Muhsin Khan, newly appointed ambassador of Persia to the United Kingdom, at your service, sir."
You do not need to call me sir," I answered. "I am a mere valet." He smiled.
"If you are a good valet, then you are worthy of my respect. If you are a bad valet, then I will want to be on your good side, so you do not pick my pocket."
Then he barked a huge laugh and continued to chortle as he turned away to look out the window at the rocky desert below. I got nothing more out of him, and we landed soon after. In Bandar Abbas. Get rid of this first dagger. Oh boy. Ooh, look at this. That is valuable. Did we get rid of something here, I think? That way we can move the cigarette case over here, buy that. Magnetic compass. I don't think we're going to need the khakis. Alright, let's see where this leads us. Novorossiysk, Mount Elbrus to Tehran, Bandar Abbas. Is there a way? Is there any way? Karachi, Lahore. Colombo. Chittagong. Alright. Let's rest. That dagger gonna come back and kill me. The mood in Bandar Abbas was upbeat, I found, since being reclaimed into Persia after years of control by the pirates of Muscat. People believed they had escaped a great tyranny. Coffee shop. I found my way into one of the many new coffee shops where a group of intellectuals were teaching themselves the game of dominoes from instructions on the back page of an old newspaper. I am abysmal at the game, but these men and women appear to be novices, so I settled in to challenge them and indeed walked away from the table a little richer, and with a new set of dominoes in my possession. It seems they had disliked the game enough to give it up entirely. Nice. Let's explore. Come on, baby. Please tell me there's a way to Kabul. Ooh. I don't know. That is gonna hurt, but I think we don't have a choice. Go! We got money. Bed of Brothers. Bed of Brothers was a scheduled departure out of Bandar Abbas's busy port, but even as we walked up the gangplank, I had the uneasy sense that there was something a little amiss. I was put doubly on guard the moment we met the captain, the most unsavory character, given to giggling in the midst of his sentences and rubbing his hands together as though endlessly apologizing. We did our best to ignore him and settled ourselves in our cabin. I gotta take care of Fogg, because he's getting a little rough. First day passed innocently enough. The crew, when we saw them, were cordial. Though I sensed some secret behind their smiles, which I could not fathom. Monsieur Fogg seemed, to my mind, a little more on edge than usual, but it was probably due to the lack of decent down feathers in his pillows. Yeah. Ooh. Experimental hovercraft to launch. Experimental hovercraft to launch from Yokohama soon. That is... Whoa, look at that. Alright. Beijing to Japan, I think, is going to be... to Honolulu. Okay, that's cool. Really want to get to... I don't think we're going to make it to Kabul. We... spent the day... our cabin? Let's enjoy the view. And keep an eye on the crew. Played dominoes with a couple of the deckhands and found to my despair that despite the better... cheaters. After a few games, I threw in the towel. Men were reluctant. Your funds have gone down a little bit. Okay. I didn't know I was going to pay for money. Otherwise, I definitely would not have done that. Okay, Karachi in the early morning. The captain saw us at the gangplank with a beaming smile. Well then, he declared. Did you enjoy sailing with my little family? It has been a pleasure. The captain nodded vigorously. My brothers have enjoyed your company, gentlemen. Farewell. With that, he waved us off. From the shore, I looked back and remarked to Monsieur Fogg, What a strange crew. Do you see their noses? Fogg replied, tapping his own. Watched the captain and his nose as he loped back among the other sailors and gasped. My master was quite right. They did all share the same nose. They were quite literally his little family. With that, we left that strange crew and entered the magnificent city of Karachi. So, we're all brothers somehow. Alright, let's sell that. We can sell that. Definitely gonna get that. Get that here. That is valuable. I don't know. Let's pick up a pocket watch, a stopwatch. And let's explore. I don't think we have a choice. Let's plan. That is expensive. I think we can negotiate that. I don't know. What about Bombay? Sure, let's take it. Tomorrow at 8 a.m.? Okay. Let's hotel it. The undisputed sovereign of airship travel in Karachi was a brightly dressed lady of middle years by the name of Jamuna Ezra. Jamuna Ganjani, if we're being proper, she corrected. Ezra is my maiden name. I found her to be an excellent businesswoman. We began our conversation discussing all the various routes available, but it quickly turned to her own transports. I can help you, she assured me, but where is it that you want to go? Delhi or Bombay? Where should we go? I asked, rather overwhelmed. She laughed shortly. That depends on where you want to end up. Across Asia and America, then back to London. Across Asia and America, and then back to London. Madame Ezra began to laugh, softly at first, and then uproariously. A few of the men and women waiting in her outer office poked their heads in curiously. London, she gasped out. Across Asia? You know you're going the wrong way round. Oh, I know. She waved away at my attempt to explain. You are too precious. My husband is going to love this story. Madame Ezra dismissed me with a wave of her hand. I admit, I left out a detail or two about the good lady when I relayed my encounter to Monsieur Fogg. Alright, let's get the heck out of here. The Sarvarkar... Modik? We boarded a metal-clad Savarkar at Modik, headed for Bombay. It was a sleek little conveyance, no doubt one of the prides of Madame Ezra's vast passenger fleet. There was a sizable observation deck. Catering was my first concern. I talked my way into the kitchens using my position as a valued passenger. By claiming a close connection... Okay. Let's... A game of dominoes with you. A game of dominoes with you? How enjoyable. The view of the Indian coast was fantastic. I squeezed in beside a gaily dressed Indian woman at the window who was dabbing nervously at her throat with a lacework handkerchief. She cut her eyes towards me and then favored me with a smile. I smiled back, and she turned to look at the rapidly receding ground, allowing me to see the wonder spreading through her face. The airship bucked in a stray air current and threw the woman into my arms. I set her on her feet, and she gave me a grateful look, though it was edged with fear. "Thank you, sir," she said quickly, and bolted from the observation deck without a backward look. Strange. To Bombay. Let's get Mr. Fogg some attention. I saw the Indian woman from the previous day beside a tightly corseted English Mem Sahib. I glanced in the maid's direction, and she blanched. She made her excuses to her mistress and left the observation deck again. Could not fathom it. Mem Sahib marched over. "Do you know Aliyah?" she demanded. "She fell yesterday," I said truthfully, "and I caught her. I meant no harm, but she seemed frightened." "Yeah," the lady hissed. "You do know her. What have you done, you brute?" "I merely caught her when she fell," I explained, "yesterday as we were taking off." The Mem Sahib seemed satisfied with my answer, for she drew back. "Aliyah has had a difficult life," she said softly. "I am protective of her." "That is very admirable." "Is it?" The woman's lip curled. "One would imagine it is mere decency, but we live in fallen times." I saw Aliyah and the Mem Sahib only once more as we were disembarking the Atmatik. I gave Aliyah a little bow, and she gave me a quick half-smile before pulling her palu around her face. I watched them as they headed away, the Mem Sahib's hard expression softening as she guided her companion's steps with gentle care. What can we sell? Cracker biscuits. Block of henna. I can't pass that up. You know what? I'm gonna trade that. Okay. Let's explore. Okay. Monsieur Fogg cared not a straw for the wonders of Bombay, but gave me a few hours' leisure as he settled to his luncheon. I ended up wheezing and puffing my way up Malabar Hill, the highest point in South Bombay. I paused at the top to look towards the city. I could see the gas lamps along the Queen's Necklace of Marine Drive being lit one by one in preparation for the evening, and palm trees waving in the salt-scented breeze. Catching my breath, I found my steps irresistibly drawn towards the Hanging Gardens, which shielded the Parsi Tower of Silence from the bay. The Hanging Gardens were magnificent. Little steam-powered curricles and horse-drawn carriages vied for space underneath shady trees. British officers escorted their stiff-bodiced wives or made eyes at brightly dressed Indian girls, and in the shadow of the gardens I saw the symbol of the copper lily on the door of a converted mansion. I approached and knocked on the door and was given a cup of tea in a cushioned wicker chair almost as soon as I crossed the threshold of this outpost of the Artificers Guild. The setting was opulent, an open plaza lit from skylights above, lined with palm trees in large urns. A fountain in the middle of the room had been converted to pump steam, which drove the pistons of a gilt-edged suspended organ which clattered out a lively tune. A middle-aged Sikh in a bright blue turban and admirably pressed trousers approached me. "What is it you require, traveler?" I am interested in transportation," I told them. "What inventions have you made?" The artificers bickered amongst each other in at least 6 different languages before Dharampal, the Sikh, smiled. "We have invented many small things that are useful but not important, like caps that prevent water from falling from bottles when tipped suddenly upside down. But in transportation, we have done nothing." "There are no rocket ships, no motorized snakes, nothing?" He laughed. "Nothing. Though there is the walking city of Agra, of course, but we did not build that." "There is no way to Agra from here?" I protested. The artificers shrugged. "I suppose not. The train to Calcutta goes via Allahabad, further to the south." I thanked the artificers profusely before taking my leave, though alas, I was so distracted by my musings that I failed to notice 2 thuggish fellows with ill intent who cornered me in a side street and demanded my shoes. A man's shoes are his castle," I contended, which had the laudable effect of confusing them for a few moments while I attempted a discreet but ultimately fruitless escape. I returned to my master barefoot and rather shamefaced. "Ooh, I hope this will not happen again," said my master coldly. That was to be the last word on Bombay, gateway to the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. Except for, "And what, pray, has happened to your shoes?" Ooh. Okay. Let's plan. Ooh. Tomorrow? Yeah. We have a block of henna. Gotta get rid of this thing. Which is valuable in Rangoon. It's over there. Okay. Alright, let's negotiate that. I think we can do it. We gotta get going, so. Alright, we'll pass the night. We're pretty well off. I think we're gonna be okay. With what remained of the day, I afforded my master every service. Let's get out of here. Ooh boy. Choo-choo. Oops. The clerk who took our money counted it out fastidiously, and then recounted it before issuing us a ticket. "A ticket to Calcutta, Sahib. 4 days. No faster way in the world." I nodded. "And there are no issues, no delays?" I inquired seriously. "No impediments of any kind?" "Oh no, no, Sahib. None at all." She gave me an edged smile. I should have known she was lying, but we boarded the train in blissful ignorance of our fate. Monsieur Fogg is well cared for. The train started with a sharp screech, but entirely punctually. We shared our compartment with a tall, fair fellow by the name of Sir Francis, who was an old India hand. My master made no secret of the circumstances of his journey, and our new friend clearly thought him entirely devoid of common sense. A reasonable judgment, which I personally shared. Indeed, I had rather hoped that Bombay would be the terminus of our journey, but we were plainly whirling across India at full speed. Our wager was now in full swing. I began to worry over delays and obstacles, both imagined and real. Monsieur Fogg's cool-headed demeanor seemed incroyable, and made me admire him all the more. while stiffening my resolve to aid him in winning his wager at any cost. I slept fitfully, though the berths were comfortable enough. I had an uneasy feeling about our journey across India. Yeah, keep saying that. Let's talk to somebody. Greetings, Sir Francis.
Good day to you, Passepartout.
Talk about Calcutta. They say that the Bengalis are much in favor of Indian independence. Yeah, let's talk about Rangoon. Do you know that traders in Pang Sao Pass will pay over the odds for Buddha's teeth relics from Rangoon? Do you realize that some buyers will pay well for evening jackets in Rangoon? Okay, so no information on how to get to Rangoon. Today, Sir Francis told me of the regions we were passing through. Monsieur Fogg, who was not traveling but merely describing a circumference, preferred to reread his edition of the Morning Post. I was more interested in acquiring new shoes. My chance came at the next stop, where I managed to lay my hands on a pair of rather fine loafers, made of buttery soft camel leather. Monsieur Fogg gave my feet a glance of brisk approval. All right. Yeah, we keep getting some Beijing hints. And so I'm determined to find a way to make our journey continue, though my hopes on that were quickly dashed when I discovered there was no more track. Apparently, the papers had been somewhat overzealous in reporting the railway's completion. The track was altogether missing between Allahabad and Calcutta. Sir Francis looked quite ready to knock the conductor flat on his back, though my master betrayed not even the slightest hint of dismay. I asked a fellow passenger, a Portuguese opium merchant, who laughed at my predicament before racing off in her steam carriage. A boy not long out of short trousers seemed to take pity on us, or at least had a wish to practice his English, and directed us toward a local merchant who had recently purchased a large mechanical elephant from Bombay. Interesting. That was maybe not a good idea. Python's chromatic self. I was beside myself with worry. This was an unexpected and unwelcome delay. Okay. $2,000! Holy crap. Okay, I guess we don't have a choice. Hotel it is. That's a very expensive elephant. As night fell, I afforded my master every service. You know what? I'm going to stretch my legs and manage to have my pocket hit. Being punished. Oh boy. It was easy to spot Chuni, the mechanical elephant, as she was easily the largest creature, no indeed structure, in Allahabad. Her owner's eyes lit with avarice at our approach. My friends, do not make me commit to paper the sum that Monsieur Fogg paid for that elephant. But I fairly burst with indignation at the exorbitant price. I muttered that she may as well be made of solid gold rather than forged iron, but my master demurred that gold was a most impractical metal for vehicular construction. All three of us, myself, Monsieur Fogg, and Sir Francis, mounted into the iron carriage, suspended within the cage of rotating gimbals which comprised her belly. The cage kept the carriage from pitching and rolling. With Chuni's iron-footed gait, like a gyroscope one could perch within. The mahout scrambled up behind the pachyderm's padded neck, and we set off in a straight line toward Calcutta. Let's talk. What is your wish, master? Passepartout? Poetry? Dominoes? Airbrush? Very good. Hopefully that will help defray some of the discomfort. We were 4 hours into the shortcut through the Jharkhand forest when the mahout called a halt. I listened out carefully. Beyond the rustle of the leaves and bird song, I could hear the sound of cymbals and bells overlaid with voices raised in chant. The Mahout urged Chun-Yi behind some thick foliage and turned off her engine. She slumped into guttering silence. Through the branches I saw a group of priests who were garlanding a procession of armed men and women with marigold and jasmine. Some burned camphor while others smeared sandalwood paste on the devotees' foreheads. Behind the procession loomed a four-armed mechanical Kali. That's an Indian god. I think of it was kind of a dark god with darker associations. It's like a god of death, I think, with polished black skin, gleaming ruby eyes, and a protruding tongue the color of blood. She brandished wickedly curving blades in three of her arms as she took each piston-driven step, and she clutched a young woman whose head, neck, shoulders, ears, arms, hands, and toes were loaded down with jewels and gems, and whose eyes were thickly cold. Sir Francis looked troubled. "I have heard rumors that the Kali cult sacrifices virgins." The Mahout shook his head. "She is no virgin. That is the widow of the Rajah." She looked very small and frail in the iron arm of the mechanical goddess, but was quickly lost from view. The Mahout had begun to start Chun-Yi's engine when Monsieur Fogg said, "Suppose we save this woman." "How exactly?" I demanded with some excitement. "I see only one course." The project he then outlined was a bold one, not to say impracticable. Monsieur Fogg was to risk life, or at least liberty, and therefore the success of his tour to rescue the lady. I was ready for anything that might be proposed. As for my master, I perceived a heart, a soul under his icy exterior for the first time. We decided to wait till the early hours of the morning and spirit the woman away from camp when the mercenaries were asleep. Alright, let's see how that goes. Converse. Greetings, Sir Francis. Calcutta. Please tell me if it's possible. No idea. Okay, excellent. Chittagong? Geometric equipment. English poetry. Tell me more about Rangoon. Ah, okay. Via Chittagong. Got it. Okay. See, that is very useful. What about Rangoon to Singapore? Interesting. What about Manila? Cool. We crept up on the Kali Bhakt as they slumbered in the clearing beside the ruined temple. There were guards patrolling at each corner of the camp. A stealthy rescue would be impossible. I was seized with an admittedly foolhardy notion. To ride Chun-Yi into the camp! Oh my god. Ooh, to disguise myself as... No, there's no way I'm going to be able to disguise myself as a guy. Let's do that. I pushed Chun-Yi's speed lever all the way forward before leaping off the howdah. Chun-Yi screamed and charged. The guards scattered out of the way with cries and alarm, and the newly awoken mercenaries ran this way and that. The camp was in an uproar. I stole into the camp, but could not help a triumphant grin as I passed by without attracting undue notice from the panicking mercenaries. I found the young prisoner huddled in sleep and reached out to her shoulder to wake her. My fingers barely brushed her tunic when I felt my legs swept out from under me. I fell flat on my back. Quick as a panther, the woman leapt to her feet and pressed the edge of a gleaming, curved blade to my neck. Her lips were drawn into a grin more bloodthirsty than ladylike. "Good morning," she said in cultured English tones. "Pleasure to make your acquaintance." And so we came to be the prisoners of a Kali cult in the forests of Jharkhand. The woman, Auda, turned out to be the leader rather than a prisoner of this band of mercenaries. They had risen up against the British after the death of Auda's husband, the Rajah. Despite her fierce appearance, she left me my journal and pen. My documentary efforts seemed to amuse her, and she laughed heartily over my recent entries until she came to this one featuring herself. Her brow wrinkled. "We are not a Kali cult, monsieur. We are not a Kali cult, monsieur. Erase that." Then what are you?" Ada gave me a sardonic look, which encompassed my scuffed leather loafers and my journal. "What exactly are you?"
A traveler. You are a tourist, she corrected darkly. You have traveled into the middle of a battle and you do not even know it. She left me with those words and moved on to interrogate Monsieur Fogg, who was attempting to sit very straight in his hempen bonds. As night fell in the forest, pondered a life lived out here in this wilderness, with no collars to starch ever again. Ooh, that's not good. Ah, a close shave, superb. Oh boy. I woke to a strange scene. Auda and Monsieur Fogg were sitting at the feet of the mechanical goddess, sipping tea and conversing. Inasmuch as my master conversed, I shared a look with Sir Francis, with one of the mercenaries. We gave each other the commiserating look of those in service to capricious masters, a bond which overrode our positions as captor and, captee. Auda laughed and placed a delicate hand on my master's elbow. Mon Dieu! She was flirting! This was dangerous, as Monsieur Fogg was clearly, taken in by her charms. He was too much a gentleman to see the danger posed by a woman. If only my master had been raised by someone like my own maman, he would not be so quick to dismiss the fairer sex. I began to complain loudly to draw their attention, but alas, they barely glanced over before resuming their deep conversation. Oh my god. I hope this is going somewhere. We're losing days. When I awoke, Monsieur Fogg and Auda were nowhere to be found. One of the mercenaries took me to a nearby stream for a wash, and when I returned, Auda was standing in the middle of the camp. Monsieur Fogg was a few paces behind, looking as calm and unruffled as ever, though he kept glancing at the windowed Rani. Mr. Fogg has explained your circumstances to me, she said, giving me a nod. I find your wager most amusing. We will convey you to Calcutta. I glanced at my master, whose cheeks were perhaps ever so slightly stained with red. A telltale sign, though I would never be so indelicate as to suggest anything untoward had occurred between an English gentleman and a Rani-turned-outlaw. 5 of us, my master, Sir Francis and the Mahout, Auda and myself, mounted the mechanical Kali who carried us with loping grace to the outskirts of Calcutta. I dare not approach the city. Your monarch has a bounty on my head, Auda said, as farewell. I hope you write my story well, Passepartout, she added before bestowing a wink upon Monsieur Fogg. Good luck. And to you, I called, though her band of freedom fighters were arrayed against the forces with which my master held dearest, the crown, the empire, and the law. We walked the last mile or so and finally arrived at our destination, the prosperous, urbane city of Calcutta. What a journey. Ooh, Monsieur Fogg is taking a hit there. Ooh. That's the night. Calcutta was an industrial city which had built its wealth on opium, textiles, and indigo, but that was not to say it was uncultured. The chai shops which I passed by were all thronged with affluent babus and behenjis, discussing poetry and literature and the sticky subject of Indian independence. It seemed there was discontent brewing in several places, and I wondered if we would be able to avoid all consequences of it. Do you think there will be trouble soon? I asked. Several voices agreed, but then several disagreed. It seemed there was no clear answer to be had here either. Only time would tell. I returned quickly to Monsieur Fogg, who was sitting, staring into space with a faraway look. Perhaps he had not quite left our elephant behind. Explore? Because I think we need to figure out where we're going next. Ooh, Singapore. Hong Kong. Okay, cool. I struck up a few conversations here and there, hunting for options for how we might proceed. Yeah, there's no way we're going to Kabul, unfortunately. What's this? Hooded cloak.
We don't need that. And we'll put the loafers with the playing cards. Okay. Let's plan. No charge tomorrow. Alright. Let's spend the night. Before retiring, I definitely need to do some work for Mr. Fogg, or he's going to fire me. Let's depart. Let's go. So I would like to sell that in Rangoon. We boarded the SS Thunder of the Apcar shipping line on its way to Hong Kong via Singapore. But the smokestacks barely had time to steam their morning dew when we were approaching Chittagong to pick up more laborers. We made a full stop. We hid. Why not? Soon found there was little order aboard the ship, and when the boat left once more, we had room and board all for no cost. Monsieur Fogg, of course, was unaware of this arrangement, and I kept it from him, knowing he would only raise a steadfast objection to our fair dodging. The captain, with whom we quickly made friends, promised us a journey of 10 days rather than the usual figure of 12. Nice. We're gonna get in trouble, aren't we? We dined at the captain's table. He made his toast and then asked Monsieur Fogg outright whether he was an opium trader, and I his factotum. I looked at my master, who merely said he was not. Captain Ong guffawed and commanded our glasses filled once more. It is a profitable business, he advised. A man can make his fortune in opium if, and he addressed the last to my master, he is not squeamish. Morals are not squeamishness, I replied coldly. The opium trade profits from the weakness of men. Yes, Captain Ong agreed. Some people are weak, and some overcome their weakness. I believe in freedom. The people of China are not children, that we need to mind them like an over-anxious parent. Monsieur Fogg gave me a quelling look before turning to the captain. Your business is your own, Captain Ong, as long as you conduct me to Hong Kong in 10 days, as agreed. The captain raised a glass. Fear not, Mr. Fogg. I have anxious customers awaiting my cargo, after all. Oh, boy. Yeah, Fogg. A game of whist with you? Capital. I woke thinking of the Rani-turned-bandit Auda. As I tied my master's cravat in the morning, I blurted, I wonder how she is. Monsieur Fogg glanced down at my hands upon his collar. Whom do you refer, Passepartout? Auda, of course, I clarified, unable to hide my admiration for the woman, despite our rather unfortunate hostage situation. The skin of Monsieur Fogg's throat colored a delicate pink. It was so slight a reaction that I would not have noted it had I not been engaged in tying his cravat. I do not wish to speak of Miss Auda. I left it at that and reapplied myself to the matter of my master's cravat, swallowing down any lingering curiosity. SS Thunder. Ah, shave, superb. The Lascars who made up the crew seemed to find me an object of great curiosity. I found them a great annoyance, as they would not be put off from asking incomprehensible questions as I went about my daily business. A young Malay shyly asked me what Paris was like. It is beautiful, I said cautiously. The Seine glitters like a snake. The theaters spill light and color onto the streets. The cafes are full of men and women debating and drinking endless cups of coffee. There are beautiful women and beggars all on the same street. She looked at me curiously. I took a deep breath, dissatisfied with my answer. Never mind my thoughts. Perhaps you will see it yourself one day. She nodded, accepting my answer. I doubted she would ever set foot in the city of my birth. Well, you never know. Your concerns are much appreciated. Today we stopped at Singapore, on the southernmost tip of the Malay Peninsula. Singapore had been British for many decades, and from the harbour it seemed almost as if some little town in Kent or Surrey had been shipped piece by piece and reconstructed on this far shore. We exchanged some labourers for a dozen or so merchants and made sail by afternoon. Nice, we are booking it. A round of whist and an excellent idea. The captain was on deck in the afternoon as I took a turn. He seemed to hesitate before he approached and abruptly said, "My brother is an opium addict." "Obasa?" He looked around to make sure we were not overheard before nodding. "My family is from Shanghai. We were poor, but instead of relieving my parents' cares, my older brother became an opium eater who lied and stole and wasted his days." "You sold him the opium?" His eyes hardened. "Does that matter? I know that it is British opium. I am no fool, but he chose it." "It is a sickness," I said gently. "A disease. He was consumed by it." "I left Shanghai at 15. I ended up in Singapore with nothing to my name but a shirt, and look where I am now. My parents live well on the money I send them." "What of your brother?" A look of fleeting sadness crossed his face before it hardened over. "I do not know. Dead, probably, if not begging on the streets." He took a shaky breath. "I have not talked of this for many years, but I wanted to tell you this, monsieur. Things are not so simple as you seem to think." Captain Ong bowed stiffly, and my thoughts flickered between the captain's story and the chests of opium, even now in the cargo hold. Wow. Let's converse. Greetings, my dear madame. Tell me of Paris. Tell me of Paris, Passport. I'm from Paris. Let's ask Tripti Dasta about Hong Kong. Brother designed parts from the Jade Tiger from Hong Kong to Yokohama. Ooh. Oh, no. Okay, Yokohama. So, collectors in Salt Lake City will pay fantastic amounts for katana blades from Yokohama. Now, anyway, does the Seine ever flood? No. Of course not. It is a very civilized river. How lucky. The river floods every year where I come from. Is it possible to go from Hong Kong to Beijing, right? The city is connected to Burlington? Dominoes. Thank you. Yokohama. Traveling circus in Yokohama. English poetry? Beijing. Nothing to say. Why not? You can buy tea sets in Pyongyang. Very valuable in Manila. Oh, Canton, probably. Let's see. So Hong Kong goes directly to Yokohama. I believe we can take a detour. Do I really need to go to Beijing? It's the shoes, right? I mean, the shoes are not that valuable, but I do need to make some money. We hit a squall today and were confined to our cabins. I could hear the sailors shout to each other outside as the ship pitched from side to side. Monsieur Fogg, in an uncharacteristic display of humanity, was noisily sick into a nearby bucket. I mopped his brow, an act which he clearly deemed overfamiliar, even in his compromised position. Passepartout, perhaps you can think of something? I feel somewhat below par. Ah, close shave, superb. Yeah, he's not doing so well. One of the Indian laborers was lying limp in the corridor outside our cabin. Hello? I prodded him in the shoulder, and he moaned. He looked unwell, clammy, and rather warm to the touch. I pulled him into my cabin and gave him a drink of water. Shukriya, he mouthed, clearly thanking me. He told me his name was Kabir, and he was bound for a job in a Hong Kong warehouse. Please do not tell anyone I am sick, he begged. But why? I asked. I have a job in an Apcar company warehouse. I do not want them to think I am sick, weak, he coughed. Please, Sahib. I let him stay in my room till he had recovered. Okay. Ooh, this has been a tough journey for Monsieur Fogg. The sick Indian laborer was convalescing on deck in a thin blanket when I came up. He looked over as I walked past, and I greeted him warmly. "Thank you for not telling anyone of my illness, Sahib. I am better today." He took a deep breath. "I have nothing to give you, but you seem like a man in a hurry. You need to get from Hong Kong to Manila quickly. My uncle has an airship. Tell him my name and he will take you." I thanked him profusely for the information and wished him a speedy recovery. That's a little out of my way, though. I don't know if I'm going to take him up on that. But it's nice to know there's an option. We reached our destination in the promised 10 days, quite a miracle, and one that Captain Ong was clearly proud of. He shook our hands with great gusto as we disembarked, his eyes dancing. "Good luck," he called, as I looked around the crowded, colorful harbor of Hong Kong. Wow, we made it. All the way to Hong Kong. Oh boy. Okay, jade figurine. Pressure gauge. So the cards have not been... We're not going to Rangoon, unfortunately. That's a bust. I want to keep those. Dominoes seem useful. San Pedro. Am I actually going to go to San Pedro? Let's, just in case. Ginger tablets. Let's explore. Where can we go? I think we just gotta go. We just gotta do it. We're gonna take the Jade Tiger, and then I think we're gonna stop when we... Well, let's get to Hawaii. The Jade Tiger was an old Mooj-class Persian airship, renovated with Chinese colors and fittings. It was painted all over with Manchu luck symbols. Swastiks, stylized bats, and coins. We climbed aboard, ready for the journey east. A game of canasta with you, most relaxing. Captain Sue wore a traditional Manchu pow in blue cotton, bone hairpins in her fan-shaped hair, and a jade thumb ring. I bowed low in courtly greeting. She looked at me quizzically and then asked a series of questions in an unintelligible tongue, which I assumed was a dialect of Chinese. An English-speaking crew member was summoned, her tool belt hung with rope, bolt cutters, and climbing equipment. "The captain says she expected you to speak Cantonese," she translated, "because you were in Hong Kong." "I was only briefly in Hong Kong," I sighed. "I did not have much time to practice my languages." The crew member rattled her bolt cutters at me. "The captain speaks Cantonese, Mandarin, 3 dialects of Manchu, Russian, and Arabic. Are any of those known to you?" "I am afraid not," I conceded. The captain, for all her delicately arranged hair and grace, looked thoroughly exasperated and stalked off in a huff. The crew member chuckled and stuck her hand out at me. "Song Shi-ying. Looks like I'll be looking after you and your master this trip." "Demoiselle Song?" I ventured. Song Shi-ying shuddered. "Song Shi-ying's fine. Try not to mangle it too much, eh, Passepartout?" Her pronunciation was, of course, flawless. Merde. Okay, choo-choo on board the Jade Tiger. Alright. Passepartout was hanging in there. Monsieur Fogg took exception to the moth-eaten red silk drapings which adorned our cabin, and asked me to take them down for the duration of the voyage. "Is it their condition that you cannot bear?" I asked. "Does it matter?" he replied with perfect equanimity. I suppose it does not, in the end. "I suppose it does not, in the end," I replied, attempting to consider the matter from my master's ever-logical perspective. Song Shi-ying looked rather, I think, insulted when she came to fetch us for dinner and saw the bare-walled room. "My master is a plain fellow," I explained. How nice for him to have the luxury of taste was her only remark, but I felt it sting keenly. Talk to. "Greetings, Song Shi-ying. Let's talk about Yokohama to Honolulu." Accordions. Valuable in Atlanta. That is good to know. about? Just out of curiosity. Okay. Playing cards. What about Honolulu? Goodbye, okay. Ooh, is that possible? Doubt it. Now, you are most interesting. Yes. Most strange. Alright, let's talk about Honolulu again. Honolulu to Acapulco? Dominoes. Let's talk about Acapulco. You heard the most interesting. Okay. Go to Ananas. No, we don't want to go that way. Where's it be? I doubt it. Maybe. You can obtain dinosaur bones in Panama City that will sell for a fortune in Freetown. Interesting. Okay, we're coming up on Yokohama. We dined in the captain's quarters, accompanied by Song Shiying. A Siberian tiger rug sprawled across the floor, a note of sybaritic indulgence in an otherwise plainly decorated room. Captain shot it herself, Song Shiying remarked, miming in an arrow shot. She loves archery almost as much as she loves the jade tiger. Did she learn it? Where did she learn it? Therein lies the tale, the crew member smiled with relish. The captain's father was too old and weak to join the army, and so Captain Sue put on the clothing of a boy and rode out to take his place. But she is so ladylike, I commented, glancing at her elaborate coiffure. It was a grave risk, but she served for 12 years and gained so much honor that when she was discovered, the generals gifted her with an airship and forgave her deception. How marvelous! I looked at the captain with admiration in my eyes, and she narrowed her gaze at me, and then at Song Shiying, who paled. Oh dear, she muttered. I think the captain's irritated that I'm telling tales. She is very modest, as befits a great hero, I said. Yes, that's it, Song Shiying mumbled and fell silent for the rest of the meal. A most stimulating dinner at the captain's table, all told. This has been one of the most pleasant journeys I've had in playing this game. We haven't had too much go wrong. We tethered at Yokohama in the early afternoon. My eyes passed lightly over the slope-roofed buildings, carriages, and bare cherry trees. I made a particular effort to thank Captain Sue for her hospitality in an attempt to convince her that not all foreigners were so boorish as she imagined. Alas, I am not entirely certain I changed her mind. Ready, Passepartout? My master called. Of course, monsieur, I replied eagerly and followed him onto Japanese soil. Okay. What do we got? Oh yeah, that is worth a lot in Salt Lake City, as I recall. It's also kind of expensive. Geometry equipment, huh? Well, we're not going to go back to Beijing, are we? Gideon's Bible. Salve of Arnica. Alright, here's what I propose. We buy that and the katana. And then we land. We travel to Honolulu tomorrow at 8 a.m. Okay, so we have time to explore. Yeah, the traveling circus. There's a traveling circus in Yokohama. That's interesting. Ooh, where's that going? Where's that going? San Francisco? It was hard to believe that Yokohama had only relatively recently opened to foreigners. There was an entire foreigners district not far from the waterfront where it was common to hear Chinese or Russian as Japanese. There were several varieties. There was a melding of cultures and clothing styles. Russians arrayed in their rich colors, hoop-skirted British ladies lately of Bengal or Singapore, Americans who had adopted the coat-like haori over their shirts and trousers. I noticed a Japanese man watching the scene with a look of intense concentration and scribbling in a sketchbook. I leaned in for a look. He was drawing a stylized picture of the foreign quarters with quick pen strokes. which stopped abruptly as my shadow fell over the drawings. He looked up, clearly irritated. "Do you mind?" he said, his accent an unholy mix of Dutch, French, and English. "I am making a drawing for a woodcut." He was clearly a temperamental sort, so I left him to his work with a polite smile. I do not think he liked foreigners from his drawings of them. Where can I... yeah, let's spend the night at the hotel. We took a room and settled in, and I afforded my master every service because things have not been well for him. It was only later that I found out that the jade figurine. All I found was a black rose laid with some care across my pillow. I lifted it up gently. It was the exact cousin of the rose found by the man on the train from Paris. I could not believe it. We had fallen victim to none other than Europe's most notorious jewel thief. When I saw Monsieur Fogg, I informed him of the incident, and he nodded deeply. "The Black Rose," he remarked. "You must keep a tighter watch on our things, Passepartout. I would dislike us to become figures of interest to such a character." Let's get out of here. Choo-choo, Honolulu. Ooh. Oh, God. Okay, well... on the Nolani was a new concept, we were told. A hover barge making the long-distance journey from Yokohama to Honolulu in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It was... if only it went further than Honolulu. A little bone rattling for the sake of a few days' efficiency seemed a good trade to me, but the ship had only enough fuel for the journey, and even then, I think, only just. We and the other passengers on this inaugural crossing must have looked pale and uneasy as we set off. Even the captain was sweating. Are you sure this ship is safe?" I demanded. "Indeed," he nodded, clapping the shoulder of a woman standing beside him. "Our artificer says so. And indeed, when disaster struck, its nature took us all quite by surprise." That's not good. That's not good. The first day aboard was blissfully quiet. The ship bucked along across the waves, and I stayed, at the rail, acclimatizing myself to the movement and enjoying the vast view of the ocean ahead of us. In the evening, I sat with a Mademoiselle Carlotta, a flashy American gold prospector who was apparently extraordinarily rich, though she carried herself like someone who had only come into wealth recently. Evening came with no sign of the artificer or the captain. Perhaps they were busy ensuring we stayed upright in the water. Ooh. Hang in there, Fogg. I'm gonna be okay. It's a long trip. We noticed the trouble when my bread roll slid from the side of my plate and rolled against the side of the craft, quickly followed by another passenger's wine glass. I went to retrieve my bread and tumbled, feeling suddenly giddy. The entire ship was listing to the left. A moment later, a strange noise began to issue from the engines below. It sounded somewhat like a scream. I looked over at Monsieur Fogg, who looked most appalled by this sudden sideways movement. I stumbled to my feet and made for the exit from the room. The shrieking noise from the engine stopped, but the boat did not right itself. "Passepartout, perhaps it would be useful to ascertain the cause of this misalignment," my master suggested. "Yes, monsieur," I replied, heading from the dining car to the engine room to find our artificer. Negotiating the corridors was a difficult proposition due to our stubborn tilt, but we were, I could sense, slowly moving back to upright once more. Perhaps we were not about to sink after all? Suddenly, Mademoiselle Carlotta leapt into my path. "Passepartout!" she hissed. "Mademoiselle, what is the matter?" I demanded. "I have just come from the engine room," she replied, her expression aghast. "And Passepartout..." She stumbled, her voice a tremor. "Mademoiselle, tell me, please." It is Madame Chou, our artificer. Passepartout, she is dead!" I hurried to the boiler room, and it was true. Madame Chou was not only dead, the circumstances told a clear story. She had been murdered. Oh no. Oh no. The weapon lay close by. From the doorway, Mademoiselle Carlotta breathed. "That katana! Passepartout! It is yours, right?" I looked down at it. Funnily, at first I had not recognized it because of the blood pooling round it. But how did it get here? I whispered. And what are you doing here? Mademoiselle Carlotta replied equally quietly. She took a step away, then quite suddenly fled from the room. I was left with body and weapon and a terrible anticipation of what would happen next. Oh, great. It's like murder on the Nolani. The next day, the investigation, such as it was, began in earnest. The captain demanded to talk to everyone, but of course everyone had an alibi. And we will have to find out what that is tomorrow, because it's getting late, and we went further, I think, than I anticipated given the time. I actually thought, I forgot how long this game is. I thought we were going to be a lot further along. I think I remember saying at the beginning of the stream that I was like, well, if we get through one, we'll do another. But we are just like a third of the way across the Pacific, so I don't think that's going to be happening tonight. I think we'll probably finish this the next time I play it. I'm not totally sure if I'm going to play this or Tomb Raider next, but either way, it'll probably be in the next day or two, and we'll see what we're feeling. But thank you again so much for coming and for listening and for following along, and I hope I was an entertaining narrator and reader. I don't have a lot of experience with voice acting, but I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to improve. So thank you. If you have any notes, feel free to leave them in the comments. But yeah, we'll see you next time. And until then, be good, and be sure to do your homework. And just remember, participation is 100% of the grade. So, like I said, if you want to leave any comments or like the video, subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, until then, have a good one, guys. Take care. Bye.